Hello and welcome to The Voice of Business, the official podcast of the Gwinnett Chamber. I'm your host, Nick Messino, the President and CEO of the Gwinnett Chamber and Partnership Gwinnett. We are broadcasting from the Gas South District in the Business RadioX studios. At the Gwinnett Chamber, our mission is to champion business, and by serving over 2,000 members, we have become the leading advocate and innovative resource for businesses to connect and thrive. Albert and Alejandra, thank you so much for joining me today. Good to see you both.
Likewise. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us, Nick.
Our pleasure. Well, we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and today's topic is Hispanic Heritage Heroes in Business. So that makes you two the heroes.
Wow.
So what an honor for me to be with two heroes. We're going to have a really nice conversation today, but I'd like to start off by having you both introduce yourself. So ladies before gentlemen, Alejandra.
Of course. So my name is Alejandra Cardenas. I'm the financial director for Supermercados Talpa. So what is Supermercados Talpa? They are the Hispanic chain of supermarkets here in Georgia. We actually currently active. We have 11 stores now, and they're all located in Georgia and one in Tennessee. So we're pioneering out here and doing our best and expanding, and we're currently opening about 2 to 3 stores a year.
Oh,
so we're
that's
busy.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Albert?
Yes, my name is Albert Sorto. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Strategic Alliances with Rudhil Companies. Rudhil Companies is a commercial and residential brokerage firm in the state of Georgia. Currently, we are the only women-owned, Hispanic-owned commercial brokerage in the entire state of Georgia. So we're pretty proud of that fact, and we try to do our best work.
A great organization. I'm very familiar with it. Great leadership. Thank you both for being with us. I do not know a lot about the firm you work for. I mean, obviously I see them, and I look forward to connecting, and maybe you can come over. I can come over. You can invite me over for a tour.
There's 11 locations. Choose one.
Okay, we'll just eat our way through it.
Of course.
Okay, fantastic.
There's one that I would recommend that has the food course, so you can try Taste of Latin America in it. It's awesome. It's amazing.
That one's
Okay.
on Sugarloaf.
Okay, all right, perfect. I'm doing it. We'll find a date.
Okay.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, it is Hispanic Heritage Month, and or we're just around the corner. By the time this airs, it will be right in the middle of it. So, if you don't mind, just share a little bit about your heritage and how you came to be a business professional right here in Gwinnett County.
Yeah. So, if you ask me, I will say I'm Mexican. And then people will say, well, where are you really from? But I was born here and raised in Georgia, so I'm a true Southern peach. But my mother and my father, they are Mexican. They immigrated back in the 70s and the 80s, and then they actually came to California, and then from California came over to Georgia, and originally were dairy farmers. So we actually came out from making fresh blocks of cheese to now owning stores. So
The American dream.
the American dream.
Yeah.
There you go.
Entrepreneurism, building something from scratch, having ownership in it.
Yep. So from there, growing up in the businesses myself, ended up going to Georgia State University and did accounting and finance, did my MBA. My parents really pushed me hard there, which I love them for and thank them for. And now ended up being here in the supermarkets.
Well, you just said something really interesting in the end about you have immigrant parents and they pushed you hard.
Yes.
That is a theme of every immigrant family story I've ever heard. Is that pushing of the we got you here, now
Yes.
you're not going to squander that opportunity.
Oh yeah, they were not going to let me get away then, graduating from the university.
Well, and your MBA, undergrad's great. MBA, you took it to the next level. For
I sure did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Albert, what's your story, bud?
Yes, so I am Salvadorian, and my parents were both entrepreneurs. They built their businesses, and I still recall being a little kid, seeing my mom start from very small to where she ended up having clothing boutiques and having wholesale distribution. At one point, I remember right before we moved to Texas, that she had Coca-Cola distribution in the area we live, which from what I understood was a big deal because you needed to move high volumes for Coca-Cola to give you a distributorship license. And my father used to work for a Japanese company, so I came this close to speaking Japanese because at one point there was, I believe, an offer for him to move to Japan, and obviously we would have to learn Japanese and things like that. But he worked for the Japanese company. He was the production manager for commercial trucks in El Salvador, and then they got distributed to other countries in Central America. He also had his own auto shop and body shop, and so he had his businesses on the side. He owned a couple of 18-wheelers and some farming equipment. So over there, a lot of the farmers, I would guess, have less resources. So he had the equipment for farming, and he would lease it out along with the driver, so farmers could have access to that equipment. But he sort of like owned it and rented it out to them. So I think that my entrepreneurship comes from them, from seeing them being very creative, finding ways to make money and create revenue.
So your dad was doing a side hustle.
Yes.
Before it was cool.
Yep.
Yeah, love
Yep.
it.
Yep.
That's a cool story. I actually did not know that. I've known you for a long time. I did not know that about. And so you're El Salvadorian. Were you born in El Salvador?
Yes.
Okay.
I was born in Salvador. We moved to Texas in the 80s, 80, 81.
Okay.
So when I got here, I think I started middle school here in the U.S.
Okay. What an incredible journey the last 4 to 5 years in El Salvador. I'd love
Yes.
to chat with you
Oh,
some more
yes.
about that. It's been really incredible to see what's happened in that country. So we're here. I'm talking to two heroes, but what does everyone have in life? Even a hero have role models. And so I was hoping you could share a little bit about who your role models might be here in the Hispanic community in Gwinnett or Metro Atlanta.
The first role model that comes to my mind definitely has to be my mom and my dad. And I'll add my brother there as well. So mom and dad, obviously coming from Mexico, having to go past, or break through the language barrier, from selling cheese on a dairy farm to going and knocking from apartment to apartment doors, trying to sell this cheese, to then eventually having a mini little store in their minivan per se, and then eventually getting a brick and mortar physical location, right? Then they were able to open about 2-3 stores. Then dad passed, and then my brother took over, rebranded the entire chain from what used to be called Celia's. Why Celia's? Because dad named the stores after my mom, and real romantic, right? And then after that, once dad passed, my brother rebranded the stores to Talpa. Why Talpa? Well, Talpa is the little town, I will say, where dad was born. So, yeah, again, real cute. Here we are, right? But no, so after that, and then my brother, of course, Luis Cardenas, he ended up building this empire, shall I say, from 2 to 3 little 5,000 square feet stores to now 11 stores with a meat distribution center, a dry foods distribution center, and a real empire. So now our largest store, which is the one that we will be inviting you to, is sitting at about 48,000 square feet.
Oh, wow,
so
that's huge.
definitely a little bit bigger than what we initially started with. But they are definitely my role models, and just seeing them break through language barriers, just all coming from small little towns to really analyzing markets and understanding our markets, understanding all of our Latino community, because it's not just Mexicans, right?
Right.
We know what we like, but then we have a community of Salvadorians. My husband's Salvadorian, so I kind of know a little bit of what they like, but still, right? It's so much more than just one family or just one community. You have Colombians, you have Venezuelans who are migrating, and just really analyzing those markets and being on top of it, from just immigrants, and really being able to hone in and understand that with not much education, with not having the resources or the money there that maybe other businesses have, that really impresses me about my family here.
Well, that is so nice to call all three of them your heroes.
Yep.
I am curious about your brother's background. Did he grow up in the business, shadowing your father, or did he have a different background?
So his background, he was born in California. My father was a true dairy farmer from day one. He loved milking cows. That was his passion. He knew it. He loved it. So in California, my brother helped them with the dairy farms. They moved to Georgia. We landed in Gainesville, Georgia. And obviously, there's always jobs there because there's the chicken factories. I think that lasted maybe 3 days there. And he was like, this is not for me. Put me back in the dairy farms.
He was trying to milk them.
Yeah, he was like, this is not, there's eggs coming out of this, right? Yeah. So we ended up going back to Somerville, found a dairy farm there, and then, my brother kept helping him with that. Eventually, we ended up moving to Rome, Georgia, in Cedartown. That's where our little stores ended up kind of building from. And it just happened that my brother just had to learn from day one, milking cows to selling from the back of the van in apartments. My mom would take me and my other brother to the Gainesville area. But my father was really hard on my brother on learn how to work. He is the hardest working man in any room. I think I'm smart and a really hard worker, but man, he has 8 years ahead of me. So, I try not to beat myself up too much. One day I'm going to get there. But he definitely is a very hard worker. And he didn't graduate high school. He didn't go to college. And he's just been able to manage and work through it. So
that's impressive.
Yes.
You just explained something. Very rarely do you hear a sibling speak so highly, but 8 years apart. You didn't grow up having to share stuff. That's okay. Right. That makes a little psychology there. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's really impressive. I can see why you chose them. Albert, same question.
So I think I would go back to my parents as well because those are my first memories of seeing somebody grow and see us prosper over the years. So I think that's really what's instilling me. And the one thing, if I could recall, and now in recent years, it's making sense. I'm like, they were very good at relationships because they have very little access to capital. So they needed to rely on building strong relationships with people who had the means to extend credit to them or help them out. They did that because they had that their word was of significance, and they kept their word and built this relationship. So I think without realizing it, I think I picked that up somehow and made that happen. Locally, I think at some of the people I admire here in Georgia, I would have to refer to a dear friend, State Representative Pedro Marin. Because he is of Puerto Rican descent, but he gets involved with anything that have to be for the Latino community, and I think he's been doing that, having done that for over 20 years. Championing a lot of initiatives that benefit the business community. I think that's something that we should all be informed about and something to praise.
Very nice that you chose your parents, and I was going to be shocked if you didn't mention Pedro. I mean, he's especially this year. He announced his retirement.
Yes,
20 years of public service. Yes. Just an incredible heart. What an incredible person. Yes. So glad you mentioned his name. We think very highly at the Gwinnett Chamber. He's very responsive he's responsive to everybody. But in regards to if there's a business trend or something we need his advice on, or there's maybe legislation that could be negatively affecting business, he is wide open to hearing all the sides of stories of issues. So really appreciate him. Circling back, as professional community leaders, as both of you are, and the audience is clearly going to be a business audience. Gwinnett Chamber members are thousands of our members. And how can you help us that are maybe not Latino? I mean, you know how diverse we are. So, I mean, our members are Korean, Chinese, from Africa, from Europe, from all over Latin, Central America. But so an audience that may not know, help us be more culturally aware of the Hispanic business community. here in we'll let you go first, Albert, this time.
Yeah, I would just set them. I would advise to follow the lead, the example that the Gwinnett Chamber is doing. So if you pay attention to it, the Gwinnett Chamber is doing partnerships and alliances with other minority groups, with Korean community, with the Chinese community, with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So that obviously will enrich the network of the chamber and open opportunities to its members. So I think I would advise them to get involved. If you see some cultural events, which, I think it's that time of year is coming, definitely learn more about the community. You can learn through their food, through their culture, through their entertainment, and with the Gwinnett Chamber through the networking events that you have. That gives them a wide open door to many opportunities. I know in the past you've done something with the German American Chamber as well. So I think you already have the platform. They just need to make sure that they take advantage of it.
Yeah. We have, I think, MOUs with about 18 different bilateral chambers and organizations. And I think one of the events you were referring to was probably we've referred to it as the multi-chamber mixer.
Yes.
It has a very global theme to it with all the different, globally different organizations and partners. So thank you for saying that. That was very kind of you to say us. Lead by our example. That's very nice.
No, completely agree here with Albert. It's all about getting involved, jumping in, getting your feet wet, and really just asking why are we celebrating? What is your culture? What do you do? What does your country do? Because a lot of people don't understand that there's not more than 4 or 5, Hispanic countries here. So it's very important to just get out there and become part of the organizations and go to the festivals. I know me, myself, I've gone to countless Brazilian festivals and Greek festivals. And 1, I love the food. And then 2, the people are just so nice. And you just start really building relationships, and more than anything, you start getting a different perspective as to why things are being done the way they do, and you start getting a new no, right? So once you start understanding a new no, it's you start seeing things differently and broadening your mentality, right? Which at least in business, we have to always broaden it and see what's all around us. So I love it. And I think that's the best way to do it. Just get involved, see what's out there, and talk to someone new.
I love your suggestion about going to the festivals. And I mean, every weekend there is some sort of cultural festival somewhere in Gwinnett County. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as we're approaching Latin Hispanic Heritage Month, there will be 5 events every weekend. For those 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. So you'd almost have to be avoiding them to not go.
Right.
And the one thing that you both mentioned, and to me, it's my number one favorite thing to learn a culture is start by eating the food. Go to a restaurant. And I've got breaking news for our audience. The Mexican restaurants you've gone to isn't just Latino Hispanic food. And that's an Americanized version, maybe. Mm-hmm. But it's just incredible what restaurant choices we have. Right. I mean, really, in Gwinnett, you could eat on any continent, any country. Mm-hmm. It's really, really amazing. But great advice. I have found some of my favorite experiences have been breaking bread. Right. And have no idea what I'm about to eat, but having someone explain it to you. Right. And then, and there's always a story behind almost every meal, right? Mm-hmm. Which is always super cool to hear about. So in regards to Hispanic Heritage Month, what does it mean for you professionally, and what does it mean to your company?
Well, to me, really what it means is for us to get in the spotlight. I think it's an opportunity to showcase the positive contributions the Hispanic community has done in the state. I've seen that. I think right now, if I'm not mistaken, Georgia, we are the number 1 state to do business for the 10th consecutive year, and I would like to think that the growth of the Hispanic community, the spending power, has had something to do with that. Even the migration within our country, because I know other Hispanics are coming to Georgia because of that opportunity. But I think it's a way to emphasize economic contributions we've done to the state as far as cultural contributions, because having that cultural mix obviously makes things more fun and gives you a little bit for something else, like you said, for the restaurants. You don't have to live Gwinnett County to eat meals from around the world, So I think it's a great thing to have here.
Right. I think exposure. So exposure to the various communities around, right? So yes, you have Mexican, you also have Colombian, Venezuelan, and then you just go down all of Central America and South America, where you have El Salvador, Honduras. So many countries. So I think it's the exposure, right? And also in part with networking. I think this is a great time, like Albert said, where we partner, right, with all these other different restaurants and businesses. For example, Talpa, we're in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a food festival where we're partnering with just various smaller organizations or restaurants, shall I say, and kind of do like a farmer's market type where, anybody can come over and taste the different food from different countries and businesses. So I know me personally, it's important because while we're working 24/7 and all day every day we're working, it's a great reminder for us to take a step back and remember our roots and really remember our family and give that time, especially in the Latin culture. We're very, close to our family. And my father used to always tell us, don't forget about your roots. Don't forget about where you came from. One day you're here, one day you're there, but, you always, always remember where home was and where your roots were. So I think it's always a great time to kind of embrace that culture and partake in the parties and whatnot. So it's a great month.
And are you doing the food festival at all of your stores or one in particular?
We're more so going to do it in Sugarloaf just because it's a bigger location. So
Okay.
we tend to do
48,000
it,
square feet.
something manageable. So we're going to do it there. Peachtree Corners, we're still trying to finalize it.
Okay.
But once that is finalized and done, we will definitely put it out on our social media. So
And I think that we can do the same. So when this airs, in the notes, we can have the date and time, location. I'm interested. I hope that works out for my calendar because I want to eat my way through that festival.
Something else I wanted to mention,
Please.
Nick, because I think we were invited to. It was a partnership with. There was a presentation where the economist from Georgia Tech was doing a presentation.
Yeah,
I know you were
Dr.
looking,
Alfie Meek.
You were looking at Hilda and I as he was doing his presentation about how the demand for commercial real estate space in Metro Atlanta had been on decline in double digits for the last 2-3 years. And you were looking at us, asking us if that's the same thing we're doing. And Hilda and I look at each other and like, no, we're actually doing the opposite because the demographics, I think because we are Hispanic, our background is Hispanic, the clients that come to us, they've been in business for multiple years. But we see a lot of the demand for space for them, either for leasing or for acquisition.
Oh,
so which is a good thing,
Right.
Which is a good thing because that means that there's more revenue coming to our county, to all the businesses that are involved. But that just tells you how unique, how the market cannot just be seen as an entire one. Mm-hmm. It'll affect slightly different, depending the demographic of the businesses you're looking at.
There's segmentation, and when you look at an international community like Gwinnett, we are better off if the traditional non-international American businesses are leasing up less space based on trends following COVID. I've said this for 2 decades. After the Gwinnett Place Mall, the Simons, when it was in decline, if it wasn't for the international community, the entire international community, there would have been tumbleweeds rolling down Pleasant Hill Road. Mm-hmm. But they infilled, and that's a thriving community. Mm-hmm. Now, if you've been in Gwinnett for 30 years and you don't see the Gap or the Old Navy there, you might think that that's in decline. I see thriving, interesting food.
Right.
Yes. I'm also not a big fan of fast food restaurant chains, and that's all it was. Now it's, again, you can just eat your way through the world in Pleasant Hill from everywhere.
No, but that's definitely true, and it's true because even ourselves, we're in commercial real estate, and we're constantly looking for new leases or for either we purchase or we lease. And man, where our communities are, there's just not real estate. So we actually have the
Market
opposite
demand.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually have the opposite problem where we're trying to find more real estate, but the real estate that we need is just not out there. So
Because in the markets where the folks that you serve is thriving, and there's not a lot of availability.
There's not available.
What a story that's not told enough. What a great example. Let's move on. I want to chat a little bit about. We talked about a lot of positive things. Let's talk about possibly sharing some challenges. So challenges maybe you've faced professionally as the member of the Hispanic community, and if so, how did you overcome those challenges?
one initial challenge that I at least saw, my parents, right? My parents and their initial was the lack of resources or the lack of they didn't know that, what a chamber was. They didn't understand what resources a chamber could, provide and help. They didn't understand that there was other organizations out there. And then again, the language barrier. So if someone did tell them, hey, the GFIA, another organization, can help you with your EBT, with your SNAP, with WIC, maybe the language, kind of prohibited that, or they were also in the mentality, if I have to work, I have to work, and the time just wasn't there. Fast forward to now, now I understand, yes, you need a bank relationship in order to gain that capital assets or investments that you need. Yes, you do need to become part of the chambers, because anytime that I've had a question, I ask Ansley, I ask someone here in the chamber, I'm like, hey, do you know someone that can help me with like this? We're trying to renew our entire financial department within the company, and we're trying to restructure. Do you have any corporate lawyers that you can advise or recommend? Do you have any financial consultants that you can help us that's going to revamp the entire? And within that same day, I can sit here and say I have not had to wait more than 24 hours. I already have a list of individuals that they have recommended, which, putting that position 20 years ago, my mom, my dad, they would have had no idea that was even available. So I think that's one major hurdle that our community goes through, especially if, they feel it's just them. They don't know the resources that are available out there.
I think that's a great example and a common thing, especially with your parents' generation, the first person to move.
Right.
But it is amazing the advancement when you go on to the next generation. And I've been in my role or similar roles within the chamber for almost 2 decades, and I've heard that story again and again.
Right.
If my parents had any idea what they could have, those resources that were in place. So good for you and your brother to advance those things and to learn what's available. Albert, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges I've seen, because I've also been on the nonprofit side, chamber to be precise. I have seen, and I must say, I've been lucky that I never felt any disadvantage myself, or if there was, I didn't realize it. But seeing it from the other side, from the nonprofit side, I do see that many times a lot of the businesses get dismissed because they assume that they don't have the experience or the expertise. Sometimes because they hear an accent, they're like, think, oh, well, there's an accent. They probably don't know how to do this or how to do that, or don't have experience with this, that, and the other. But I think the best way to overcome that for the small businesses that have that challenge is, again, get close or be part of a chamber of commerce, be part of an industry association, and build strong relationships. Be true to yourself and just network and build those strong relationships, and then that'll speak for yourself. But I think the fastest way to overcome those hurdles would be through a membership with an organization like the Gwinnett Chamber or the Georgia Hispanic Chamber, because they offer that platform and they connect you and they offer you the tools and resources, like you explained, that will help you overcome those issues as a small business entity. I
do think we're really blessed with the Gwinnett Chamber. Obviously, is we mentioned it both, and you mentioned the Georgia Hispanic Chamber. There's the Latin American Association. There's the Latin American Chamber of Commerce. Yes. We have a lot of really strong organizations. And if one's not working for you, another one could fit just perfectly.
Right.
And it's like what we said. It's about relationships as well. So I think we're very lucky in this market to have lots of places to turn. But you have to know and have the confidence. And wow, the language barrier. I mean, that's just a really tough thing to overcome. And it's something that literally hundreds of thousands of people in Gwinnett County could tell that story,
right,
because we're such a diverse community. How can we continue to support and celebrate the Hispanic community in the business beyond? How can the chamber, how can the non-Hispanic businesses help celebrate and honor and work with Hispanic businesses?
I would say you're already doing it by doing this, but I think all organizations that if they really want to build those strong relationship with the Hispanic business community, they should engage throughout the year. I think for the chamber is amplifies in the voices of Hispanic or Latino members within the chamber, which you've done, because I know and I don't want to sound like a plug-in, but that's the first example that comes to my head, that my CEO was featured in Executive Magazine. So that is another way to continue to engage with the culture and showcasing some of the Latino business leaders we have right here in our very own chamber. The other thing is it's engaging through culture. Like we said earlier, there's a lot of festivals coming up. The Atlanta International Night Market, I know they're about to have their big event in Lawrenceville. They try to engage or bring communities together through cultural and entertainment and food,
right,
so which is fun. I guess who doesn't like that, right?
Right.
But I think the other thing would be to support Hispanic businesses. So if you are a non-Hispanic entrepreneur or business organization, find ways to visit and support these Hispanic businesses in the community, get to know them, try to find out what products or services they could use, and just engage.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I think Albert here had quite a few nuggets, and sure enough, two items here to kind of really highlight is engagement, just really getting into the culture and the community more than anything, figuring out what the needs are or what services they do provide and how can, what can you gain from that. And then more than anything is just really networking, seeing again what's out there, what resources are out there. And if you see, a small business or even a large business that something is missing, maybe a relationship or something that they could really foster from, get that connection in there, help them, and just elevate one another. We're all in here for business, and it's rough. It's rough for everybody. So be nice and help each other.
Like the basic kindergarten rules,
right?
Too, right? Just be kind.
Yeah.
If we start with kindness, and things will be amazing where they can go. And I think that's one reason why Gwinnett's a premier county in the United States, because we've embraced our diversity and we haven't had the tension that you've seen in other places in the United States. We're really lucky. I think we're pretty intentional about it too. And I also liked something else that I heard, which was there's 12 months out of the year. Let's not just focus on connecting with the Hispanic Latino community. The 2 last weeks of September, first 2 weeks of October, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And I also want to emphasize and I would say this with any culture, is for a traditional American multi-generation, especially the ones that are European descent, get a little uncomfortable. Go and have a conversation with something, and because someone may or may not have an accent, push past that. I speak to Americans who are like, well, I wasn't sure what that person was saying. I'm like, it was crystal clear what they were saying. You don't need to, you don't need every single word.
Right.
I mean, just get the gist of the point. They're probably communicating the same thing you're trying to communicate to them. Again, I'll never stop saying this. Always take an opportunity to break bread with someone. So as we get close to wrapping up, I do want to ask the question, which is, there may be other heroes in the Hispanic community listening that are really leaning in to what your advice is today and thoughts are. What advice do you have for them to expand their network?
again, it all goes back to getting out there, right? Putting your face out there and asking questions. And really, really, once you become a part of an organization, it's not just paying your dues and calling it a day, it's getting involved. And most importantly, because I myself have seen where I'm having the same issues that the same business partner over here next to me is facing, and we're looking at each other and we're like, why are we both experiencing this? And countless times we've gone to Kathy, the president of GFIA, and said, hey, we're both seeing this issue. How can we get this resolved? And it's more often time than not that she's, Alejandra, you're not the only one. And we already have it up with the senators, and we're working on a bill through this. So it sometimes, when issues are afloat or in front of you, it almost feels very, overwhelming when it's the same issue that someone next to you is experiencing, or the person next to them has already found a solution. And countless times I have also seen myself in that same situation, and that individual tells me, hey, Alejandra, I had something very similar. This is what we did. Maybe it will work out for you. So if I'm reserved and I'm not loud and I'm not out there and stating, my issues, no one's going to hear me. No one's going to help me. So one big piece of advice here is be loud, go in there and really try to connect with individuals. Let them know what's going on, because 9 out of 10 times somebody has already been through that road. It's not their first rodeo, and they can definitely help you.
And it's such a nice feeling to think I'm out here struggling with this, and then people have been struggling with it. It just makes you feel like I'm not doing something wrong.
Right.
This is a real challenge. And,
Right.
and if they always could find out that there was somebody already working on it,
Right.
it's one thing to feel, but there's some progress being made, and that kind of just makes you feel like, okay, I'm a normal
Right.
business struggling on a
Right.
similar thing. So that thank you for sharing. I think that's great advice, Albert.
Yes, I guess my advice would be to try to get involved. A recommendation would be look at our Gwinnett County page and look at the different committees and boards where you can give some of your time to get to know the community better. And I've always experienced this, that by approaching something from the giving part, I get it honestly without asking, but when you do it just because you want to do it, you want to serve, things just seem to work out, And I think right now, as the Hispanic community continues to grow in the state of Georgia, I think it's very important that they do see us in these different boards and committees being part of the community, bringing solutions and bringing new perspective to the community.
I think that's great advice. And also, I think what I heard you say in a way is you're paying it forward.
Yes.
And that's for your community, for the overall community, paying it forward. We literally struggle to fill all these different appointments. And the reality is you're not going to get paid to do it, but you're helping. And from there, you're going to build your network. And one thing I love to give people advice to that are joining maybe a new organization, like a chamber or one of our partners, go in and ask the question, can you help me? It is amazing. Like, how do you say no to that, right? Yeah. And that's the thing we've all had to ask. Put your pride aside. I need your help. I'm struggling with this issue, struggling with that issue, and I'm looking for a resource. People want to help people. And so you got to be present. You got, and you mentioned this earlier. Don't just join a chamber of commerce for the sake of joining a chamber. I mean, have a plan and a strategy. And the membership does nothing if you're not engaged and present. So I think that's very, very good advice. Any final thoughts? Albert, I'll start with you. Any final thoughts you want to share?
No, other than I want to thank you and thank the Gwinnett Chamber and Business Radio for this opportunity. I think this is very important for us to engage with the community, even with my other fellow Gwinnett Chamber that may have not known things about me that I guess I just disclosed or we have not had a chance to talk about. But no, this is absolutely just wanted to thank you and looking forward to continue to grow those relationships as we network and participate in other events with the chamber.
Wonderful. Thank you, Albert. And you're welcome, and it's our pleasure.
Thank you for the time here to the Gwinnett Chamber, and then of course you, Nicolas, for hosting here this great episode. And more than anything, just get out there, ask the questions, and be open-minded. And I look forward to working with the Chamber. This is our first year being actual members with the Gwinnett Chamber, so we're super excited. And I know I've already, gotten more than what I paid for. So definitely recommend it to all the businesses. It's very, very helpful, and I'm thankful for all the help that I've already received.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So I think I should bring Susana when we come over to the groceries, eat our way through the grocery aisles.
Yep,
yeah,
of course.
We'll have a reunion from the high school Spanish class. Well, thank you both very much for your time. Really enjoyed getting to know you. And I did, Albert, got to know more things about you. I enjoyed it. I thought we knew each other pretty well.
There's more.
There's more. That'll be episode 2. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being here today on The Voice of Business, the Gwinnett Chamber. Thank you for joining us on The Voice of Business. Our episodes are available anytime on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. You can also catch our episodes online at gwinnettchamber.org/podcast. Be sure to follow us on social at Gwinnett Chamber to see when our next episode is out. Until next time, I'm Nick Messino with the Gwinnett Chamber's Voice of Business.